Start, bench, cut these 3 Penn State running backs in college. Can you tell me who Penn State football is playing this weekend?
Sorry, what?
Welcome into a special preseason collaboration with my man PSU Dylan from Penn State Pulse. Dylan, thanks for coming on, man. We go way back, man. Dylan's been covering me, since I was a high school athlete myself. And we used to be on Instagram Lives together. Yeah. We met up at BRGR, RIP BRGR now. And so we've done a lot of stuff in the past, him interviewing me, but now we're doing this together. We are going to do 2 segments today, and it's going to be, one is going to be the preseason superlatives. So we're going to take a guess on who's the most likely to do whatever we say, and the next one's going to be over-under predictions for some of the potential stars of this Penn State football season. All right, the first superlative we have is the player most likely to score double-digit touchdowns, and this is a non-quarterback category. So I'll throw that over to you first, Dylan. What you got?
I'm going with Tyler Warren. I think that's the safest answer, at least. I would say he has the highest floor as far as someone being able to reach this type of stat line. He's going to be very involved in the offense, I think, in a lot of different and creative ways under Andy Kaldenicki. So that's my pick.
Yeah, for mine, I think Tyler Warren's definitely the go-to choice here for sure. But to give a different answer, I'll go Kaytron Allen. Okay. I think he'll see a lot of carries near the goal line. I think we'll continue to see that wing T-form backfield, the 3 guys in the backfield, where that's always fun to watch. But I think he'll get a lot of opportunities. He's someone that he kind of reminds you of Marshawn Lynch when he's near the goal line. He wants to just get in there and go crazy. So I'm excited for Kaytron Allen this year. I think he's going to have a big role in this offense as well. So I'll take him for my double-digit TDs. That's a non-quarterback.
Definitely. I think as a real good, short-term, short-yardage runner, I think he's kind of primed to score a bunch this year as well. So next up, we have most likely to lead the defense in turnovers. Who do you have?
Yeah, for me, this one I got Zakee Wheatley. I think he's a turnover machine. We changed over to a 4-2-5 defense to be able to get that third safety on the field. There was a while there where Zakee didn't really get to play a ton of super meaningful snaps because KJ Winston and Jalen Reed were just that good. And so when Tom Allen came in, I think he said, hey, I have to figure out a way to get all 3 of these safeties on the field at once because they all complement each other so well. Jalen Reed kind of does everything, but Zakee Wheatley is a straight playmaker. He's going to get the ball in the offensive hands. He creates a lot of turnovers. And I think one of the biggest things of him getting on the field more is creating turnovers and putting the ball in Drew Allar's hands in better positions. Because you look back, Jair Brown, he had 7 turnovers in 2021, came back in 2022, had 6 turnovers. We haven't had someone with that much impact on the back end of the defense in a long time. Now Zakee Wheatley, coming into his 4th year, has the opportunity to be that ball hawk for Penn State.
Yep. I'm in the same area, but I went with KJ Winston Jr., another tall ball hawking safety. He also gets physical. I think he can force a few fumbles this year maybe. He's a hard-hitting guy. He puts his helmet on the ball. We saw last year, was it the Ball State game where he came the whole way across the field?
Rutgers.
I
believe it was Rutgers.
I'm slipping up on that one. But he sat in the box, right behind the box, and he came the whole way across the field and picked that off. He read it perfectly. I just think he has a really high football IQ. I think he has a high intelligence. So we're on the same page there with the big safeties, but in that 4-2-5, they should definitely create.
I think both of us answering safeties just means one thing. Our safeties are going to have the biggest impact out of any position, I think, on the defense this entire year.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on. So now we want to get into the most likely to have the most pancakes on the offensive line. Now, this is a kind of, it's not a necessarily defined category. You don't always, know exactly how many pancakes an offensive lineman has. But I think this is more the most dominant offensive lineman in the run game. Who do you have there?
I just looked at mean streak. I know it's kind of a cliche term to use, but looking across that line, I went with Venga Ioane. He's 350 pounds. He's a huge guy. I know he's a really aggressive football player, so that was my pick for that one.
Yeah, I think Vanga, if you look at Andy Kotelnicki's offense, Kansas, he has a play where he puts one of his biggest guards out in the slot wide receiver position, motions him down to crack the defensive end. So maybe Vanga Ioane has the opportunity to be going full speed, 350 pounds plus, cracking the defensive end. I think that'd be fun to see. Mine will be Anthony Donka. Now, he is in a competition with Nolan Rucci for that starting right tackle position. But I'll tell you, he played really well in the bowl game. That was his first start and only start all season. Kind of got thrown to the wolves, and you didn't really notice that much of a drop-off between Caden Wallace and Anthony Donka. And he had a couple pancakes in that game, and he really didn't look that comfortable. I mean, you could tell he's just kind of getting it. He looked like a baby horse, still trying to get his feet under him, but he was pancaking dudes in that game while he's trying to figure things out. So I think that someone has a really bright future, and I would, not there at all yet, but someone I compare to Olu Fashanu.
Absolutely. No, he's definitely one of the biggest trending up guys on the team, and he just so happens to fall on that line where Penn State's really going to need a few guys to step up this year. So we're going to get into something a little less serious next. Most likely to get the most unsportsmanlike penalties this season. Who do you got?
Oh, man. Just going against a lot of these defensive linemen in practice, I would say the one that likes to talk a lot, I think Amin Vanover. I'm gonna go with Amin. I think Amin likes to wreak havoc on the field, and you saw in the spring game, dropped back, had himself a nice pick. But he's the type of guy to get in your face afterwards. So I think he'd be the type of person to celebrate in someone's face, and then they start to fight, and the next he gets a penalty drawn. So I'll go with Mino. But I have a couple other guys on that team. I'll let you say your other one. I don't want to ball hawk, but I'll let you. I'll come back. I actually have another one for this too. I'm putting some guys on blast today.
Nah, I have a feeling Devon J. Thomas might have been on your list there. That's who I'm going with. I know he's a really nice guy, but he also likes to talk a lot. I don't know on the field because I didn't play. But I mean, just assuming that he translates on the field as well, he likes to talk. So.
He does. I remember Hawk told a story once. Aeneas Hawkins, who played defensive tackle, he told a story about him and Devon, how they got into actual kind of a fight because they were slap boxing a little bit, and then it turned into a real fight. And I remember hearing about that when it happened. It was 3 years ago. But he'll get into a little bit of scrap. He's not afraid. Yeah. My other option would be Jalen Reed. That's someone who doesn't take much garbage from anybody. So yeah, he's from Detroit. My man's from the mean streets. So he might have to smack someone upside the head if they come at him wrong. But for the most part, I will say this is all in good fun. But we actually do have a team that is very calm, cool, collected for the most part. We haven't had any of those insane, unsportsmanlike conducts that kind of screw over a team in a pivotal moment. We don't really have any of those type of guys, which is a very good thing in my opinion. Yeah,
I feel like if this is the most, it's one or two. But I mean, someone's bound to get one.
It happens, and when you just have one or two, it's you kind of like that as a coach. It's you gotta have that edge to you. Yeah, it's good to have. Exactly.
So next up, another one we had was to make friends with opponent mid-game. Who do you think's gonna make friends with it?
I would say for me, and because I know, JV Nelson is the type of guy that he'll just be chilling. He'll just be beating your butt over, just pancaking you. But he just help you up. He'd be here you go. It's all right, you're all good. But then just pancake you again and just block the hell out of you. That's JV Nelson. He's a very nice, kind-hearted man. But he does get mean when the pads come on. But that's someone I would say I could see him getting a little nice mid-game.
Okay. I'm going with Kobe King here. I think he's a pretty nice guy.
I like that pick.
I mean,
that's good.
I don't know him super well, but from my interaction with him, he seems like a great guy. So I'm just gonna go with him. He seems like a friendly fellow. So.
That's a good one. There's a couple of those times where it's you'll clack into someone and you kind of just jaw back and forth. And you start laughing, give each other a tap on the helmet. It's both of those guys I think kind of fall under that category, but they're always gonna go hard. For this next one, we have most likely to get flagged for excessive celebration.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go Devon with this one as well. I think he might go a little excessive on a play or two, especially because those D tackles, they're doing a lot of that dirty work. They don't get to actually, similar to the linemen, they don't get to get a play where they celebrate. They go unnoticed a lot. So if he gets a sack or two, I might envision him dancing around a little bit.
Taking it a little bit too far. I could definitely see that from Devon. For me, I'm going to go Amari Evans for a couple reasons. I think the wide receivers' handshakes, they're the type to do something that goes too far. But then also, if you think back to the spring game 2 years ago, Amari Evans was on the big screen and I think on Big Ten TV doing push-ups because he scored a touchdown. And I think it was his first touchdown he scored in any type of game up to that point at the time 2 years ago. And he got an excessive celebration penalty, and Coach Franklin made him do up-downs on national TV after he scored a touchdown. So he's someone that has gotten in trouble in the past. Hopefully he's learned his lesson. But sometimes it's fun to see those celebrations. I was one of those guys. I like to see when people really put some cool stuff together, but you get a lot more leeway in the NFL than you do in college football, so you got to be careful for sure.
Yep.
All right, for this last one, we have most likely to make a SportsCenter top 10 highlight play.
Right. I mean, this one was pretty easy for me. He jumps out of the gym. I'm going with Trey Wallace. I feel like at some point he's going to just pluck a ball off someone's helmet, or he's going to, win a 50-50 that just shouldn't have went his way. He's going to do something that ends up on SportsCenter, I feel like.
Yeah, I like that call. Trey Wallace, I asked him the other day because I was doing a video on him, or I included him in the video, and I said, we were in Spanish class together, and in between I texted, I was like, what's your vert? He was like, it's about 40 inches. I was like, okay, yeah, that's big playability right there to go out and help your quarterback win those 50-50 balls. Right. So I agree. I think that's a great call there. If I had to give another name, I'd say Tyler Warren. Think to the Peach Bowl this past year when Drew was rolling left, went through across his body, back into the middle of the field, and the three guys. Yep. Tyler Warren makes a one-handed catch, ends up rumbling all the way down to the 2 or 3 yard line. And so I think Tyler Warren, that's someone, he had a couple catches where he just went up and made a play for Drew. Yep. And I think he's been the one consistent for Drew throughout Drew's career so far at Penn State. And I think he's going to continue to be that. Him coming back for another year was really, really big for this offense, not only from a leader standpoint, but from the plays that he makes for this offense. So my choice here will be Tyler Warren. I could see him going up as well and dunking on someone and then just getting up and celebrating with his teammates. Nothing too special. That's not someone that's going to be flagged for excessive celebration. I saw him wear flip-flops on a private jet. So if anybody saw that photo of him on Instagram, we'll have to put that up again. But this is a guy that's very humble, but he'll make a big play.
Right. So that's going to do it for the superlatives. Next up, we're going to move into some player stat lines. We're going to go over, under, and we're basically just going to predict what they're going to end up with. So first up, we went with combined rushing yards between Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen, and we set the line at 1,750 yards. Where are you going?
Yeah, I'll go over for this one. Now, I do think there's a couple stipulations here. The offensive line is younger. They're not going to be as good. I still think they're going to be a good offensive line, but losing Olu Fashanu, Caden Wallace, they both, were dominant in the run game, but only let up 1 sack combined. And then Hunter Norzad, obviously being a 6-year center, that hurts. I don't think you'll feel that as much because Nick Dawkins is so ready to go as that 4th-year center. But look, offensive lineman, you asked me about the running backs, I just go off into a tangent about the offensive line. So I do think that's going to take them back a little bit, but I think what is going to neutralize that is Andy Kotelnicki. I think he's going to put these running backs in a better position to get them in space, more specifically Nick Singleton.
Absolutely.
We know what we have with Kaytron. He's going to be a hard runner, and he's going to have some of the best vision in all of college football. Now it's can we get Nick Singleton back to having those big-time explosive plays that he was breaking off 70, 80-yard runs at the beginning of his freshman year against Ohio, against Auburn, and we love seeing that. So, this past year they had 1,550 yards combined, so we're going at about a 200-yard jump. But like I said, I think Andy Kotelnicki and company can get that done. So I will take the over for Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen. All right, the next over-under we are going to do, we have A.J. Harris and Jalen Kimber, and we set the combined interception rate at over-under 2.5 for both of them.
Right, so the two transfer corners, AJ's likely going to start. He might be cornerback 1, and then Jalen Kimber, they've been working on his physicality this offseason. I think he's really stepping up. He'll be in the 2-deep. I think him and Cam Miller are competing for that second starting spot. But regardless, Kimber's going to get a lot of starting reps as well. I'm going to go over here. I know the safeties are probably going to get more picks than the corners from a general zoomed-out perspective. But I think both those guys will be pretty good contributors this year. 3's not a ton, so I can see them eclipsing that mark for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're both, neither of them are like big-time ball hawks. They're trying to shut stuff down. We talked about that earlier. I think Shaquille Wheatley, KJ Winston, a couple other guys, they'll take care of those turnovers, but I think they can still have a little bit of impact here.
Right. So moving on, the true freshman receiver that a lot of people are starting to talk about now, Tyseer Denmark out of Philadelphia. He's looking like he's going to play a decent amount this season. So over under on his catches, 19.5. Where are you going?
Yeah, I'll go. I think I'll go under there, just because I think they'll be reluctant to go after, just have Drew Aller just toss into pigskin all the time. I think this is going to be a run-heavy offense, right, and it's not going to be as 50-50 as we've seen it before. Now, there has been some freshman wide receiver in the past that have had success. Parker Washington played a huge role in 2020. Jahan Dawson got to play some in 2018, his freshman year. So there's definitely, Penn State shows that if you're able to do it as a true freshman, they will get you in the game. So we have seen that. But I just think right around 20, if he's that fourth guy at the wide receiver position, I think Liam Clifford was kind of that fourth guy last year. He had 13 receptions. Now Trey Wallace did get hurt, so he kind of worked into that third role. And I think that's kind of a role that Tyseer will have this year, where he'll be the fourth guy, will get to be the third guy in some games. Unless he really starts to pop off, I think that's probably as far as he'll go on the depth chart. So I'll have him just under 20 catches, but I think he's still someone that can have a big impact this year, and then really leading into next year is going to be a huge year for him, I think.
Absolutely. And he's not really a straight line speed guy, but he is someone that could take that ball, even if he has 18 catches, he could have maybe 300 yards out of it. He could make a big play. He's good in short area quickness, so maybe he ends up still over 300 yards, even with less receptions.
All right, the next over-under we have is Abdul Carter, and we set his sacks at over-under 7.5.
Yep, this is a pretty tough line. I think he's right on that 7-8 range. Him and Denai are probably going to be competing for those sacks. I mean, especially against inferior competition, there's going to be a lot of reps where they're kind of just first to the quarterback wins. I'm going to go over. Maybe it's my blue and white glasses, but I'm going to take over. I think he'll be probably around 8 or 9. I don't think he reaches double digits, but Abdul Carter will definitely make some noise this year. I think he'll have a good amount of sacks.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about this transition for Abdul. I think it takes some weight off of Denai's shoulders for sure, and not having to be just the guy. There's someone across from you where an offense can't just fully hone in on you. But there is that transition for Abdul where now he has to get used to lining up against an offensive tackle for 30, 40 rushes a game. It's not just getting to creep up in that 7-up look and get a pick and a loop and kind of get free and use that athleticism. You got to work on those hands, and you got to hone in that pass rush ability. So there is kind of that development for Abdul Carter, but I think he's more athletic than Chop Robinson. So I think he'll just beat some dude straight up just off the line and bend the edge.
Right.
Adisa led the team with 7.5 sacks last year, I think, and he took advantage in some games. He had 2.5 sacks against the UMass right tackle who didn't look like he really should be playing college football that day. So I think if Abdul can take advantage of some of those games where he's playing really lesser tackles, he can get up to that 8 mark.
Yep, I agree.
All right, so the next over-under we have is Amari Evans receiving yards, and we set that over-under 350.
Yep, so I'm going to go under on this one. This is a pretty tough one because I think he's more of a big play guy. You could take a ball and go 50, 60, 70 yards. We saw against Michigan State last year. So even if he has less catches, he could have a lot of yards, but I think there's going to be a lot of guys rotating in and out of that wide receiver room. They can probably go 6, maybe 7 deep. I mean, outside of the starters, you're still going to have Tyseer Denmark, like we mentioned. You'll have Caden Saunders rotating in. So there's going to be a lot of guys out there catching the football, and I think there'll be a run-first team, like we mentioned as well. So I'm going to take the under on this one.
I love it. I was surprised to look. He only had 4 receptions last year. I feel like Amari had more. Like when I saw 4, I was like, what? He only had 4 catches. And you think about the Michigan State play, that was pretty impactful. But he definitely someone that's going to get involved more. That's for sure.
Right. There was a stretch of maybe 6 games where Ursus just didn't play him much. So I think that kind of killed his stat line, his confidence, a lot of things. But I don't think that'll be an issue this year.
Definitely not.
So next up, we're going with the total tackle mark on middle linebacker Kobe King. He led the team in solo tackles last year. So we're going to set that total at 65.
Yeah, I will. I'll go over here. I think it'll be just a little bit over 60. I think he could get over that 65 mark just because we were talking about this before. He's in that 4-2-5 defense a lot more now. We won't always be in that because that's that kind of nickel defense, and you don't want to be in that against a heavy run team. But he will get a lot more opportunities to make tackles. And look, He led the team in tackles in 7 out of 13 games last year, and I think he's going to kind of continue that trend of being the guy who does the dirty work for Penn State. You don't always hear his name when you're watching the broadcast, but it's like you look at the stat sheet, he is constantly at the top. If he's not leading the team in tackles, he's second or third. So it's one of those things that Kobe King is, he's going to take this defense as far as they can go, really. Like, I think he is the heartbeat, and they're going to depend on him being in the middle. Now, he has young Tony Rojas next to him. That can get really fun and really exciting for this young linebacking core that isn't super deep, but there's some stars in that first group.
Absolutely.
Our next over-under is Dom DeLuca, and for the category, we have pick sixes. We set it over-under 0.5. He's someone that's always making a play. Feels like he always has a pick, an opportunity to take it back. What
Yep.
you got here, Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, he had the one last year against Delaware, so this is pretty much just asking if he can do it again. I think he can. When he's in there, there'll probably be a lot of the Sam position, dropping into coverage when they're actually playing in that 4-3. I mean, he's going to jump her out at some point. He's going to get a couple picks. It just depends if he can take one back to the house. So blue-white glasses again, maybe, but I'm going to take the over. I think he'll get a pick six.
I like it. Yeah, and he's someone, like, when we first saw him, Drew Adler's first spring game, he had 2 picks on, I think, on Drew in that spring game. He's had a couple interceptions. He had the Maryland interception. He's a guy that he makes plays when he's around the ball.
Absolutely. And then next up, we're going with Tyler Warren receiving touchdowns. This could be our leading receiver as far as touchdowns are concerned. So over or under 7. Does he eclipse his mark from last year?
Yeah, I'm way over on this. I think he will go double digits. Penn State, they love their tight ends. They ran a 2 tight end set 51% of the time last year, and then a 3 tight end set about 6% of the time. So it's clear that we want to feed our tight ends. Now, I don't think the tight end 2 role is going to see as much action this year, whether that's Khalil Dinkins, whether that's Andrew Rappelier, whoever that is going to see as big of a role as Tyler saw last year with Theo, because I think that was kind of a tight end 1A, 1B type deal with him and Theo Johnson. So I think more of those targets that Theo saw are going to go to Tyler this year. So I think he can break into that double-digit touchdown category. And then I also think Drew Adler needs a safety blanket. Every quarterback needs one. And so far up to this point, that's what Tyler Warren has been for Drew Adler, has really allowed him to develop and bail him out a little bit. Every quarterback has had, you think about Kyle McCord, J.J. McCarthy, they've had players that can go up and bail them out when they want to give them a 50-50 ball. Now we have that at tight end in Tyler Warren, so that's why I'm going over here. But I know I'm going back to wide receivers, but we need that, ability out of one of our wide receivers to also make some plays for Drew Adler. Next over-under we have is Zane Durant, tackles for loss, and we set that at 6.5.
Yep, so I'm going to go under on this one, mainly just because it's going to be something similar to that we saw last year with those 4 defensive tackles pretty much that all play starting reps. They're going to have a lot of guys in there getting a lot of reps. And, I mean, if him and Devon were, like, starting, like, pretty much the full year, not having any type of relief, this would be way over, I feel like. But just because they're going to be rotating so many guys in and out of the D-line, which you kind of have to do in today's college football to begin with, I'm going to go slightly over. I think he'll be around the 5 or 6 range. All right, and then the last one we're going with is Bo Pribula total touchdowns. He ended up with 9 last year, 6 on the ground, and we're going to set this line at over under 10.5. What do you got?
I think this is going to be really close, but I'll go over. I think Andy Kotonicki is excited to have another athletic, dynamic quarterback that in this offense where you can do some really cool things. Now, we've seen the Penn State offense in practice, practicing the read option with the kind of orbit motion behind him. So it's really a triple option where the quarterback can pull it, give it, or have a pitch key coming around him. So that type of stuff, that's where Bo Pribula can really excel, especially on the goal line and short yardage. And then on top of that, just talking about when Bo Pribula would come in the game, it just felt like there was a spark that just was lit into the Nittany Lions offense. Think about the Peach Bowl against Ole Miss. He came in, he had a 10-yard read option keeper. The next play, 45-yard pass touchdown to Nick Singleton. Yep. That's the type of spark that Bo Pribula provides to the Penn State offense, and I think Andy Kotonicki is going to want to utilize that even more than he was utilized last year. Yeah. So I will go over for that reason.
Yeah, someone like Bo, that's just Andy Kotonicki is the perfect guy to bring in for someone like Bo. He's going to figure out very creative ways to get him very involved in the offense, and I think we'll see a lot of him this year.
No doubt. All right, we got one more bonus over-under, and we're looking at whole units here. We're talking about the defense for Penn State, and we're looking at games holding opponent below 20 points. Now, they did that 9 times last year, but this is a little bit of a different defense. It's not Manny Diaz anymore. Right. It's now Tom Allen. We had some guys leave. What's your pick there?
We had this line at 7.5, and I'm going to go over. I think they do get to 8. There's going to be a few top-end offenses they face. Ohio State is obviously a team that's very tough to keep under 20 points. I think West Virginia will get close to 20 next weekend. There's a handful. It's going to be close, but I do think they eclipse that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'll go over 2, and I think it's right around 8.
Yep.
And I think that's important for this defense to put Drew Aller and the offense in situations where it's not on their shoulders to win a game. That's not really – I don't think this offense is really built to be in a shootout or come from behind or anything like that. This is an offense that would love to be in a situation where for most of the time they're playing a team that's being held under 20 points. Yep. I think Andy Kotelnicki can get 21 points most games. So if the defense can help these guys out, I think it could be a good year for Penn State. And you are looking at 11-1, and there's the real possibility Ohio State's coming here. You upset them, you take care of business. I mean, like I said, we got a lot of stuff to do before then. And Coach Franklin always says, 1-0, one day at a time. But I'm not on the team anymore, so I'll look ahead a little bit. This is the opportunity. Like, this is the year for Penn State to go 11-1, 12-0. Like, it's here. This is it. Especially if everybody plays up to their full potential between KJ Winston, Deny, Abdul, and then you look to the offense side, Drew, Katron, all these guys, and it's like, if they have a great enough year and they don't, a lot of these guys could not come back. So like next year we could be losing a lot of guys. Yep. We need to capitalize on this year and bring home some big wins to Happy Valley.
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely have the talent to do it. They have the depth to do it. It just depends if they can put it all together and take it a game at a time. But yeah, it's coming up quick, man. It's coming up. All right, well, this has been a special preseason collaboration pod, Behind the Wall, Penn State Pulse. That's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching. You can find me at PSU Dylan on X, Twitter, YouTube now under DISRUPTU. Plug yourself. Yeah,
you can find me on all social media platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Landon Tengwall. And we got some more cool stuff coming for this season, man. So Absolutely. Definitely excited. It's going to be a good one for Penn State football.
Yes, sir.